One of the services we provide to all of our clients is support through a HRSA audit when and if they get a notice from the government inviting them for that joyous occasion. With that said, we also support entities that aren't our clients and are just looking for help getting through that process. Chris, since you are the genius behind our HRSA audit support, would you mind kind of walking us through what that service looks like?
I don't know about genius, but we can cover the whole process. So once you get your notice, we're able to go ahead and start digging into everything. One of the first things you'll get is an information request form. It's pretty easy to fill out. We can help with that piece. And then you'll start digging into your data request list and gathering all of the data that you need for the audit.
What are the areas that tend to be most challenging for covered entities in terms of navigating that data request list?
So it varies from entity to entity, but some of the ones that are often more complicated are the purchasing data. And that's often because entities don't know about all of their purchasing accounts, which sounds surprising, but it seems like there's always at least one account that whoever runs 340B does not know exists.
How do we typically manage or help covered entities through gathering all of that information that may be coming from different areas that's harder to get to?
We will help them pull the data from their TPA for the contract pharmacies, and we just explain what it is that we need for each item in pretty clear detail so that they can go ahead and start pulling everything that we need.
I think one of the benefits we have is that we have experience with all of the TPAs, and every TPA's reporting is different. So you have to pull different types of reports or different combinations of reports to get the information that you need. And because we've gone through this process with each TPA many times, it's a little bit easier for us to be able to navigate and pull what we need without the covered entity to kind of left on their own to navigate that on their own. I know one of the stressful parts before you get into the actual audit is that pre-audit call, which can feel very formal and formulaic, and that's because it is scripted. What do you do to support the covered entity in going into that call?
So we have developed a script to help prepare for that call. All of the questions that we've seen HRSA auditors ask, we have made notes on, and we go through that whole list with every client and go ahead and pre-answer all of the questions. And that way we can have it in front of us on the day of the actual call.
So people aren't kind of caught off guard by surprise in the middle of that call. In terms of the audit itself, I know you've provided support on-site as well as remotely, depending on what the covered entity needs or feels comfortable with. Can you walk us through kind of what that's like for the covered entity in terms of the support that they're getting?
I'll start with remote support. Um, that tends to be more common if the audit is actually going to be conducted remotely. So then we can support remotely a little more easily. And we'll just set up a Teams meeting separate from the actual audit call so that we can discuss things with the covered entity outside of the Zoom call with the auditor.
Yeah. Help maybe dig for some of the additional information. I know sometimes in the middle of the audit, they'll look for, a agreement between the pharmacist and the provider for collaborative practice or something. That's something you can kind of work and pull in the background. For the on-site audits, do you sit in the room with the auditor? Are you in another room and just available if folks need you? Are you typically answering questions with the covered entity? How does that work?
And so typically we're in the same room with everyone. We'll help answer questions. We can even navigate the HR to analyze the claims if the covered entity would like us to. I haven't ever had anyone ask me to sit in another room, but of course that's something that we could do as well if they don't want us in the same room.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think the last part of that process is corrective action plans, which we always hope we don't have to go through the process for. But there are sometimes things that we identify in that audit prep that maybe, we go into the audit knowing, okay, this will be a challenge, or we know that there was something listed incorrectly on the Medicaid exclusion file. We've fixed it, but we can't go back in time. As one of Felicity's favorite Simpsons quotes, sorry doesn't put the thumb back on the hand, Marge. You can't go back and fix it. We can say we're fixing it moving forward, but we can't go back and fix what's happened. So when those do occur, and we do have to go through a corrective action plan process, what does that interaction or support look like for the entities?
So we can support through that entire process as well. We can actually draft the corrective action plan for the entity. and walk through all of the steps of it. So like you're saying, if we found something wrong with OPACE, then we'll help them navigate making those corrections. Of course, that's usually done before the audit because it's something that we find before the audit. But if something comes up with a claim on the day of the audit that we think will be a finding, we can go ahead and make notes on that. So if a corrective action plan does come back, we already have notes prepared.
Yeah, and I know we've also gone through and helped covered entities either kind of investigate the root cause of a challenge or the overall impact. Particularly, I'm thinking for those Medicaid registration errors where we have to go back and see which claims or how many claims are at risk of a duplicate discount, and helping the covered entity to do that analysis again so they're not left to do that on their own. And I think that can be really helpful not only in writing the corrective action plan, but also helping work through the corrective action plan.
When we go ahead and make notes, if we believe there's something wrong, then it's so helpful because it could be 6 months, maybe even a year before you get your findings back. And if you have a finding, or before you get your report back, and if you have a finding, then you may be like, I don't remember exactly what went on with this during the audit. So it's good to go ahead and have notes.
So with all of that said, if there are any covered entities out there that are looking for support from any of our other service lines, knowing that if you get a HRSA audit notice, we will be there behind you 100%. Or if you just got a HRSA audit notice and you don't have a partner to help you through that process yet, please don't hesitate to reach out to our team. We would love to help you.